One of the most frequently asked questions when getting into fly tying is, what do I need to get started? My name is Alex and I'm one of the team members here at Ventures Fly Co. And this is module 2 of our beginner fly tying masterclass. In this module, we're covering everything that you'll need to get started in depth. And this section is fully dedicated to the vise. And we're specifically going to be talking about the 5 things to consider when buying your first or your next vise. So what is a vise? A vise's purpose is pretty simple. It's gonna hold the hook in place while you're tying. There's tons of different shapes, sizes, colors, a lot of different functions and features. You can spend as little as $30 and, believe it or not, even get up into the $1,000 plus range. But to help give you a big picture and eliminate the confusion, we've simplified the differences down into 5 main categories. Number 1, C-clamp versus pedestal. So here I've got this C-clamp vise, and right here at the bottom, this is a C-clamp, you guessed it. And so what you do is you adjust this screw up and down, and you can attach it to a table or a desk, and then this also adjusts up and down. And then here I've got a pedestal vise. So I've got my vise, it's directly attached to this solid heavy base. And so I'm able to just put it right on top of the table or on my desk, and it moves around pretty easy. So C-clamp and pedestal vises both have their pros and cons. So what does the C-clamp have going for it? Well, first, because it doesn't have a base, it's cheaper. You're looking into the $30, maybe $100 range. But you can imagine, because it's cheaper, the quality of the materials are gonna be lower grade and the jaws just aren't going to last as long. Another pro to the C-clamp is that it's consistent and it's sturdy. So let's imagine I have a desk that's solely dedicated to fly tying. I can tighten that C-clamp right where I want it. I can get it to the right height. I don't ever have to adjust it. It's gonna be right where I left it, and it's gonna be really sturdy attached to that desk. But let's say your buddy invites you over to tie flies at his house, or you're going on a trip. It's gonna be harder to move. You're gonna have to unscrew it. And sometimes when you get to that new desk or that new table, the C-clamp isn't going to be wide enough to actually fit on that table or desk. So you're kind of out of luck. Now let's talk about the pros and cons of a pedestal vise. So the majority of pedestal vises are higher quality. They're gonna use higher grade materials. The jaws are gonna last a lot longer, but because of that, it's going to be more expensive. Another pro is that it's easier to move. So again, if I have a buddy invite me to come tie at his house, or I decide to go on a trip, all I gotta do is pick it up, move it around, and I can put it on top of any desk or any table. And then another unique feature to a pedestal vise is, let's say I'm headed to the river tomorrow and I'm gonna tie up a few Frenchies, a few zebra midges. I can dump out the beads and the hooks right here onto the base, and there's a little spot for them to hang out. And I don't have to worry about them getting lost or rolling onto the floor. All right, let's talk about number 2, fixed versus rotary. So if we go back to our C-clamp vise, the jaws on this, they don't move, they don't rotate, they're fixed in place. And then going back to that pedestal vise, this has rotary function. So if I need to look at the backside of the fly, I can move it. And if I want to start attaching materials and just hold the material in place, I can wrap it around the fly using rotary. I like to compare rotary to the rear view camera on a car. Can I back up my truck without a rear view camera? Yeah, I can. But does it make it easier? Does it make me a safer driver? Yes. Rotary is kind of the same thing. It's not absolutely necessary, but it does make tying flies easier. All right, number 3, hook size capabilities. So I've lived in Hawaii for a few years and Colorado for a few months and fished in both places. In Hawaii, I've got bigger flies and bigger hooks. If you've ever fished in Colorado, you're often using midges that you could barely see under a microscope. We're talking sizes 20, 22, 24. So if the majority of my time I'm fishing saltwater with really big hooks, or targeting finicky trout with really small flies, I might consider finding a vise that's specifically made for those hook sizes. But I would say for most of us anglers, we're not gonna get outside of that 22 to 8 to 6 to 4 size range. And so knowing exactly what hook size range a vise's jaws can handle is definitely something to consider when picking out your first or next vise. All right, let's jump into number 4, but for sure stick around for number 5 because it's probably the most important of them all. Number 4, bells and whistles. So just like adding some nice rims to your car, there are a few things we can add to a vise to spice it up a little bit. Just a few examples. First is a bobbin cradle. So when you're using that rotary function on your vise, you can hang up that bobbin and get it out of the way. Second is a material clip. So I can't tell you how many times I've cut off a little piece of wire and I get to that step in the fly and I look around and I'm like, where the freak did that just go? A material clip, you can put hackle feathers or pieces of wire or anything to hold it there in place and you know right where it is. And then number 3 is metal hardware. So a lot of these really high-end vises will come with brass screws or silver knobs. Now you can find a lot of other bells and whistles, but these were just a few examples. And now let's dive into the most important thing to consider when buying your next vise. Number 5, quality, durability, and warranty. So you just got to ask yourself a few questions. Will it last for years to come? So if you do this the right way, your vise isn't just going to last for 5 or 7, but it could last for 10 plus years. And if it's lasting that long, it's usually because you can replace the jaws. So the jaws are the workhorse of your vise. You're tightening them, you're loosening them, you've got metal hooks, you've got metal jaws, you've got that metal to metal interaction. They're gonna wear out a lot faster than the rest of your vise. And so you'll definitely wanna consider, am I able to replace the jaws as needed? And then you're also going to wanna consider, what is the warranty on that vise? So just as an example, we have the Flysmith vise here at VFC, and it has a lifetime warranty. If you've enjoyed tying flies so much that you've worn out the jaws on your vise, we're impressed. Like we're just gonna replace those jaws for free. And we're probably gonna request a tying lesson or two because you're so dang good at tying flies. But this is just an example of a type of warranty you should look for when considering your next vise. And so to just end it off, here are all 5 of those considerations to make when buying your next vise. Screenshot them, write them down, and if you have any follow-up questions, be sure to leave them in a comment below. In the next section, we're going to be taking a deep dive into the tools that every beginner needs to get started in fly tying. Check it out right here.